All right, and we're live. And how we all doing tonight? I guess we can get rid of the old starting soon because we're starting now. Singan Chief sends a $2 super chat. Says hello from Bubba Fest. Vic, Nick, and Tug say hi. Not really sure who those people are, but hi right back to them. All right, so we got a few things to talk about tonight, and not only do we have the super chats available, but there's also the Streamlabs, folks. I got that set up, so those are both ways you can support the show. Oh, pardon me. Let's see. Let me see if I can bring Luke in here, and so we got a few things to talk about tonight. First things first. Little story for this week. Hang on, sorry, folks. Hey, Luke, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I believe we can hear you just fine. All right. So, little story this week. There was a Jordan Peterson text to speech program that was thrown online. A lot of people were having fun with it. I was planning on doing something with it today. I was going to do a Steve's Jerky ad. Steve's Jerky is our sponsor tonight, folks. More on that later. But I was going to do a Steve's Jerky ad where it was going to be like Jordan Peterson just describing a typical weekend. And it was going to be all sorts of fucked up debauchery, about how he's like in a fight club Friday night. And then Saturday night, he does a fat rail of white lightning off of Ben Shapiro's sister's titties and makes Ben Shapiro watch because hierarchy is important. And then on Sunday night, he has to eat a third of his body weight in Steve's Jerky to regain the energy to do another week of spouting a bunch of bullshit to college students.
Oh, that was fun. Why was that not happening now?
Well, that's not happening now because I'm sorry, not Ben Shapiro, because Jordan Peterson had a little hissy fit about it and had the damn program shut down. If you go, I believe the website's not Jordan Peterson. The guy took the thing down because Jordan Peterson threatened legal action. Now, look, I understand that a lot of the voice to fake voice program, the deep fake stuff, videos and all. Look, there's certainly going to be something very disruptive about that technology as it gets better and better. But really, let's be real. This was not something that was ever going to be so sound. This particular program, it did not sound perfect enough that it was going to get Jordan Peterson in any trouble. He just didn't like the fact that people were making fun of him, and he whined like a little bitch. We can't have any fun because we're hurting dollar store Carl Jung's feelings, everybody. So we all got to stop having fucking fun. It's a shame. I was all excited about it when I like saw everyone was doing it. I had the idea. I messaged Steve and I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna have a great commercial for you this week." And then I was like, "Oh fuck, they took it down." Shit! Before I got a chance to record it, like I was in my head at work. I'm like planning through like what it was gonna be. It was gonna be great, but you know. But unfortunately, Dollar Store Carl Jung had his feelings hurt, so he threatened to go tattle the teacher on us. So which is ironic since he is a teacher. That's his profession. So we all had to stop having fun. No more fun. Sorry, folks. No more fun. People were doing some fun shit with it. Like they had him read the art. Like they had like a fake Jordan Peterson audiobook of the art of dick sucking. They had him,
Oh
just
no!
just record like rap songs and shit like that. Just typical stuff like that. Good, funny stuff. Great stuff. But he was having a, and the other thing I don't get the mindset of a guy like that. Like, why would you? Jordan Peterson is a very independently wealthy man. Okay, he's made millions upon millions of dollars these last few years. He was making $70,000 on Patreon a month alone, a month. And that's not even counting, speaking fees, book sales, small donations to other means, that kind of stuff. That's not even counting any of that. This is a very, very wealthy man. Why would you? I don't know. I don't get how some people are so thin skinned Some people take themselves so fucking seriously. Like, especially when you have fuck you money. Once you have fuck you money, you think, who cares? Oh, somebody's making fun of me on the internet. Who gives a fuck? Who fucking cares? But apparently he cared. So we all had to stop having fun. Because he found it very disturbing. There's a few things I want to talk about. I want to really get into some stuff been on my mind this week about both the corporatization of everything on the one end, and then sort of the at least when it comes to stuff like geek culture, which obviously I'm very into, big old nerd. I'm sitting here right now in my, Mighty Morphin / Ninja Turtle T-shirt I ordered online. It was some bootleg company in China, because there's a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ninja Turtle crossover comic coming out soon, and some bootleg company in China managed to slap the cover of that onto a T-shirt like right away. Really nice shirt though. It's like silk screen and really good material. Like, I just figured I'd get a cheap piece of shit shirt that I'd be able to wear for a few weeks and then it would be beat up, become a work shirt. But no, this is actually a really nice shirt. Point is, I'm a big old dork, as evidenced by this. But I kind of want to talk about some of the just rampant consumerism on the flip side of the corporatism in geek culture in particular, just in culture in general. But first, we have a fun little article we're going to talk about. I sent this to you earlier today, Luke, I believe.
Oh no, that article.
Let's see.
It's so much fun, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's see. So we have an article. Let me see if I can bring up the window capture.
We're going to talk about the author first, or if I'll talk about her later.
We'll cover that. But get rid of slideshow. Okay, so this is off of NBCnews.com, which I'm old enough to remember when NBC News was news. Yeah, it was a left-wing bias, but it actually, there was at least an attempt at serious journalism when I was younger. So this is off of NBC News. Miley Cyrus's split with Liam Hemsworth isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a blow to the patriarchy. It's a blow to the patriarchy. Women like Cyrus are speaking out about sexuality in ways that put the power and responsibility back into their hands. Miley Cyrus, you may remember as that Cenobite that danced with Robin Thicke on stage wearing a dragon dildo from a few years back. This is by Marcy Bianco, which I believe was Al Bundy's neighbor in Married with Children. Over the past week, an assortment of trending stories from Jeffrey Epstein to the Dayton and El Paso mass shooters to Miley Cyrus's separation and Julianne Yu's declaration that she's not straight. I don't even know who she is, but she's apparently not straight, which isn't surprising because in my experience, all women are bi. Together have laid bare the strictures of American patriarchy on the edge of a nervous breakdown. The status quo, heterosexuality, is just not working. Luke, there's a bit of an echo on your end. Your mic's just a touch hot, so try maybe turning down your volume a bit. As a snapshot of is echo still there, Luke? Try turning your volume down a little bit, or put in headphones or something. Anyways, as a snapshot of 2019 America, these stories present a startling picture. Men continue to coerce, harass, rape, and kill girls and women, and go to extreme lengths to avoid responsibility for their actions. On the other side of the issue, girls and women are challenging heterosexuality and even absconding from it altogether. Yeah, this article makes it sound as if gay men aren't a thing that exists for one. For one. Framed differently, the picture is this. Men need heterosexuality to maintain their societal dominance over women. Women, on the other hand, are increasingly realizing not only that they don't need heterosexuality, but it is often the bedrock of their global oppression. Well, I'm pretty sure the continuity of the species requires heterosexuality.
And forgive my ignorance, but when are men never held responsible for what they do?
Well, I mean, maybe a certain subset of men, such as Jeffrey Epstein, and more importantly, the many people whom he hooked up with 12-year-old girls aren't held responsible. But that's more of a question of the elites than men in general, isn't it?
And a certain political bias, I'm sure that the author of this article doesn't share.
I'm sorry. Here we go. Framed differently, the picture is this: men need heterosexuality to maintain their societal dominance over women. Women, on the other hand, are increasingly realizing that not only they don't need heterosexuality, but it's often the bedrock of their glow. Oh, I read that already. Sorry. Patriarchy is at its most potent when oppression doesn't feel like oppression, or when it's packaged in terms of biology, religion, or basic social needs like security, comfort, acceptance, and success. Heterosexuality offers women all these things as selling points to their consensual subjection. Wasn't the big push from the gay rights thing a few years ago that your sexuality is inherent, that you're born with it, and this woman's writing an article like women are just choosing heterosexuality like it's a fucking brand, like it's Coke or Pepsi or something. Like
it's also a secret conspiracy for men to control them.
Historically, women have been conditioned to believe that heterosexual is natural or innate. Just as they have been conditioned to believe that their main purpose is to make babies. And if they fail to do so, they are condemned as not real or as bad women.
I get it. She's trying to counter the obvious objection to her position.
I will grant you this. There is a subset of people that, some of the trads, that they're too reductive in oh, you gotta have kids, and it's like, there are times when it's like, yeah, you're sort of reducing me to an animal, that my sole purpose is to breed. That said, though, having kids is an important thing that most people would be much, much happier doing. And yes, heterosexuality is sort of the default. I don't know if you knew this.
It's sort of the reason why we all exist.
It's now take the morality out of it for a second and just understand it is the normal, okay? It is the default. Like, it is what most people are. No, it's just a lie. It's just something you were sold. Celebrities are not always at the vanguard of feminist thought, but both Julian Yu and Miley Cyrus have recently spoken out about sexuality that puts the power and responsibility back into their own hands. Well, just like Spider-Man said, with great power comes great sights to show you, I guess. In the Women's Health September cover story, Yu, an actress and Dancing with the Stars champion, well, I'm glad they cleared that up because I don't know who the fuck that is, described her personal transformation, which included delayering all the survival tactics I built up over my life. One of these survival tactics, she says, was connecting to the woman inside that doesn't need anything versus the little girl that looked to my husband to protect me. She voices concern that her husband will respond negatively to this newfound self-sufficiency. I was like, is he going to love this version of me? But the more I dropped into my most authentic self, the more attracted he was to me. Now we have a more impotent. Yeah, I bet you do. Now we have a more intimate relationship. Okay, so this is apparently her on the cover of Women's Health magazine. Amazingly enough, they still make magazines. Part of the intimacy entail telling her husband that she was, quote, not straight, but had chosen to be with him. This is an inspirational statement. Well, I feel inspired. I don't know about you, Luke, but I feel inspired. Because it offers a new model for women to enter into heterosexual relationships with men that redefines the power dynamic. Oh, we're getting kinky here. All right. Finally. This is getting fun. I think there's a safety with my... Oh, safety word? Because that's important. I think there's a safety with my husband now that I'm unpacking all of this. You continues. There's no fear of voicing things that I've been afraid to admit or that I've had shame or guilt about because of what I was told or how I was raised. Miley Cyrus has never been shy about discussing her own personal sexuality, despite the fact that the country at large doesn't want to hear it. In 2015, the Wrecking Ball singer said, "I don't associate men men and protection necessarily. Well, given how your father failed you, that's not surprising. In a Time magazine interview, I think that's what's given me the openness of sexuality. Having a response to a think piece that would make it go, okay, no, sorry, that's something else. Shortly after it was announced that Cyrus and her husband, Liam Hemsworth, were splitting up, photos of the singer kissing a woman in Italy made the tabloid rounds. But even before the breakup, Siley embraced her non-heterosexual identity in Ella's August cover story, in language that echoed Yu's ownership of and responsibility for her sexuality and marriage choices. Cyrus noted that she, quote, made a partner decision, unquote, by choosing to marry Hemsworth in late 2018 because he was, she explained, the person I feel has my back most. I'm shocked it didn't work out. Cyrus thoughtfully explains how her sexuality is both distinct from and influences her relationship, or her definition of what a relationship looks like. Being someone who takes such pride in individuality and freedom, and being a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. She writes in a personal memo in Vanity Fair in February, I've been inspired by redefining what a relationship in this generation looks like. Sexuality and gender identity are completely separate from partnership. Well, that sounds like she's into cuckolding there. She added that her goal for 2019 was to, quote, live carefree but not careless. A brilliant distinction that could serve as a mantra for anyone in a marriage, straight or gay. The difference between carefree and careless is in a way represents the ideological division in the definition of freedom. To be free is not to have the power to do anything you like. Simon D. What I'm not going to bother pronouncing that, writes in The Ethics of Ambiguity. Indeed, Friedrich Nietzsche asserted that freedom is the will to be responsible for ourselves.
And this that almost sounds right wing there, doesn't it?
And this responsibility carries over from the self to society, which is why, according to Toni Morrison, the function of freedom is to free someone else. For Audre Lorde, this definition of freedom is a social construct. I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. This is a far cry from the type of freedom espoused by those on the right, for whom freedom, as I wrote in an earlier article on how misogyny is the driver of mass shootings in America, is conflated with domination. In this context, freedom is actually possessed by a select few and is dependent upon the oppression rather than the liberation of disempowered people, particularly women and minorities. Wow. This just goes on. Cyrus and Yu's respective declarations does more than raise visibility for the queer community at large. Wasn't that like an insult for the longest time? I thought that was like their N-word or something. Like, or damn near. I guess fag is their N-word. But wasn't that an insult?
I guess I could say it now.
It's like colored people. Like, I'm sorry, person of color now it is. It used to be colored people. That was no good. Then we semi went back to it with person of color. How are you supposed to keep track of any of that? It is a powerful assertion of their bodily autonomy and control over their sexuality. Women's sexual liberation has always had a place in feminism. In The Second Sex, Beauvoir explains that freedom is recognized in women's sexual activity, and that freedom not only rests in self-expression, but in self-accountability. If this sounds like this is a whole bunch of nothing, by the way, that's because it fucking is, just so we're clear. And this notion that an adult is responsible for their own sex life, how they have sex, who they have sex with, when, where, and why they have sex, portrays a sharp contrast in our culture, where men seem to never take responsibility for their actions. Women must always take responsibility for not only their actions, but the actions of men. Citation fucking need it. Absconding from responsibility is the quintessential strategy of the patriarchy. It's how men stay in control and never lose their power. As Lord... go ahead.
Forgive my ignorance, but if you are in control, does that mean you're not responsible? Just trying to bring some logic to this conversation.
Excellent question. As Lord wrote in Sister Outsider, You remember Lord? She had that really good song 5 years ago. The cost for those of us who are not who not only have carry the responsibility of others, but to educate them too, is our own liberation, agency, and self-creation. The oppressors maintain their position and elevate their responsibility for their own action. I'm sorry, evade their responsibility. This is slowly making me brain dead. It's hard to read. Evade their responsibility for their own actions. There is a constant drain of energy which might be better used in redefining ourselves and devising realistic scenarios for altering the present and constructing the future. While men stew in their mess, women are rising. Rise up! Women rise up. We live in a society. They are taking back control of their lives and their bodies, and they are questioning the foundation of the patriarchy, heterosexuality, that has kept them blindly subordinate for centuries. It's also the reason they exist. A feminist critique of compulsory heterosexuality orientation for women is long overdue. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me with that? Like I joke that all women are bi, and I don't think that's far from the truth. But you notice how, and this has been true for most all of my lifetime, there is no stigma attached to homosexual experimentation for women. There still is for men. If you suck a dick, you've chosen that side forever, essentially, for men. That's the show. That's what the social status is. All right, women go back and forth all they want. So again, what fucking parallel universe does this woman live in where she believes there is compulsory heterosexuality foisted upon women?
I noticed that this author also references like two lesbian women in a relationship, but she also mentions the fact that they're also well-established athletes. And it's always interesting how they always have to resort to celebrities, the people who can afford these unusual lifestyles.
Apparently there was a 1980 feminist classic called Compulsory Heterosexuality and the Lesbian Existence. It looks like this critique has finally arrived in the mainstream. So there we go, folks. I hope we all learned something.
The Friends for School has finally reached the mainstream, apparently.
I think we all learned something. I learned a lot. I know I learned a lot from this. Good God.
But please, let's talk about this author now, Marcy Bianco.
You got a link to her Twitter real quick? Shoot it to me on Skype. Oh, wait, you already said it on Skype here, I think. Okay, so this is
I sent a screenshot.
On Twitter, she is this is by the way, at MarcieBianco, in case you would like to tweet at this wonderful woman. She is known as a feminist, writer, cultural critic. Hashtag Deep Les. Deep Les. Hashtag why do I get the feeling if I click on that hashtag, it's mostly porn? Hashtag Deep Les and hashtag JLF. I don't even know what that is. Is that like the Justice League of France? What is? I don't know what that is. JLF creator, atheist, qualified lesbian, views equal, always my own. I gotta bring this up. Good God, we gotta bring this up onto the screen. This is just too good not to share with the fine folks in the audience. It's not enough for me to read it, folks. You need to see this woman's.
And of course, her default image is a billboard that says "Lesbian Switchboard."
Lesbian Switchboard. It sounds like a ska band. Like a terrible ska band too. Well, I said ska band, so that's redundant. Okay, so once again, this woman is a feminist, a writer, a cultural critic. Hashtag Deep Les. Hashtag proud member of the Justice League of France. Creator, atheist. Hashtag qualified lesbian. Qualified lesbian. I don't know if you have to go to school for that. I don't know where you get your qualifications. I question your credentials, madam. And views equal always my own.
Okay, so JLF might mean Juniper Literature Festival.
I prefer to think it means Justice League of France. like back in the 90s when there was a bunch of Justice League, Justice League Europe, shit like that. There were a bunch of like offshoot teams.
Yeah, but of course you'll know the default image is a series of rainbows.
Justice League France. I'm going with that. Her power is I don't know. I don't know what her power is. It's just qualified lesbianism. I don't know. Well, that'll come in handy, I guess, if you're fighting Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how that's going to be helpful. Good God.
It never seems to amaze me how many people on the left are ignore basic biology, and this is astonishing coming from someone who self-identifies as a young Earth creationist.
So you just sent me something off of her Twitter. Shall we actually scroll through her Twitter? I got to check real quick, make sure it's not just full of lesbian porn.
It's all her articles and everything relevant to this biology denying nutcase.
Of course. You know what? Of course there's no porn on there because that would mean she could have fun.
She's too serious for that kind of thing.
She's already well into the lesbian bed death stage, so she's not. There's no porn left. The porn is just her and her girlfriend watching Gilmore Girls. Jeez. All right. What else did we want to talk about this week? Oh, I know. Going from one cringe case to another. Let's talk about Teddy Spaghetti a little bit, shall we? Teddy Spaghetti had a wonderful article on his gay little blog. And I've been a lot harder on Vice Day here recently, but he's just become so cringe. There's just no getting around it, guys. Like it's just okay. Hang on one second, guys. Sorry, I had to move my mic there. I hope that didn't sound terrible. He just has become so fucking cringe. So let's read an article from his blog because because it's time. He needs to. We need this big brain nibba to explain some stuff to us. All right. So this article is from the 19th of this month, and it's entitled "The Value of Football." The Duke of... I'm not going to read. Look, this top little thing here is something about the Duke of Wellington. I don't fucking know what he's saying. And then there's something off of some article from a quarterback about how football teaches you teamwork and perseverance and all sorts of great life lessons. That's fucking fantastic. But I want to read this bottom little paragraph here because this is where all Teddy Spaghetti gets a little cringe. Many of these things are true of all team sports, although football is special when it comes to teaching courage due to its intensely physical nature. There's a lot to dissect here. I just want to read through it first. Those who mock it as sports ball are ignorant fools and physical cowards who would never dare to line up in the trenches, either as children or adults, and will be of no utility whatsoever when the shooting starts. Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, yes, playing team sports as a kid, keywords there, do teach you a lot of valuable lessons. I used to play hockey with some buddies of mine as a kid. It was a lot of fun. Now we just played street hockey. You know, we had the net, we had the sticks. You know, we chased after a tennis ball on shoes. We weren't skating or nothing. But it was a lot of fun. I always liked doing it. I used to play a little basketball with friends. That was always fun. But watching team sports doesn't teach you anything. That's just fucking entertainment. Nothing wrong with entertainment. Okay, nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with there just being some goofy, dumb shit that you like. Once again, I am sitting here in a Power Rangers meets the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt. Okay? Because that's some goofy, dumb shit I like. Alright? But I know that it's some goofy, dumb shit I like. I'm not going to sit here and philosophize about how, watching the Ninja Turtles, Leonardo taught me a lot about leadership. Like, no, okay? It's just some goofy, dumb shit I like. It's okay. You know, I don't have to philosophize it. I don't have to explain how people that aren't fond of it are somehow less of a man or something. You know, like football is just the dumb thing that Vox Day really likes, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, Vox Day really, really likes cheering on those big, muscular, mostly black men from the sidelines. He's a big fan of that. He loves to cheer them on as these black men perform. He loves doing that. Okay? He's a big fan of it. And that's fine. That's fine, Teddy Spaghetti. All right? Nobody's judging you for your love of watching those big, muscular black men perform. Nobody is judging you. All right?
I'm noticing an undertone here.
No, I'm just saying. Okay? I'm just saying, no, look, that's fine, all right? You love watching these huge black men who would hate you if they knew you physically perform. You love doing that. And that's
not my
fine.
cup of tea, but I get it. You like watching that, okay.
I get it. You love to watch. I get it. That's fine, all right? That's, you know. I'm not a fan of that myself. Not a fan of it myself, but that's fine for you. That's fine for you, Teddy. So first of all, I don't think that football is that fucking impressive athletically. Now look, yeah, I'm not in the best of shape. My fucking self, fine. You know, I bet they could all kick your ass. You're fucking fine. All right, that's, you know, that's great. I'm happy for them. Compared to other sports, I don't find it that, like, I think the athleticism of, say, even basketball, and look, the basketball players are often kind of pussies. They like to fall down and pretend to get hurt. I get that, but it's still a bunch of 7-foot tall motherfuckers bouncing around like goddamn Spider-Man. All right, it's pretty impressive. Hockey is fucking impressive. Those guys are monsters, all right? Like, if you told me, all right, Bechtloff, tomorrow you're going to get beat up by either a random NFL player or a random NHL player, I'll take the NFL player. I think I got more of a shot of at least surviving that than the hockey player. Hockey players are fucking madmen, all right? There's a reason the old joke is, you know, in the middle of a fight, a hockey game broke out. Also, you know, like, I have buddies that are huge into football, and they want to be like, no, you don't understand, Bechtloff. It's like the Gladiators. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't aware that the Gladiators could call a timeout every 3 butt fucking seconds. I wasn't aware of that. You know, that's a little piece of Roman history I was unaware of.
It's basically a safe approximation for what tribal conflict look like.
And you know, you want to talk about, like, the physically demanding, you know, the physically intense sports. There's UFC. There's boxing. Okay, it's not really a sport so much as a show, but there's wrestling. Now, yeah, wrestling, I realize professional wrestling, the outcome is predetermined and all that other stuff. But those guys are like, okay, yeah, it's fake, but how do you fake, in the words of the angry video game nerd, how do you fake 300 pounds of man-ass crashing down on you from the top of a ladder? Like, the stunts they're performing are real, even if the outcome, you know, is predetermined. They're still in there beating the piss out of each other. So, yeah, but especially UFC and boxing, far more physically impressive than football. All right,
That's actually terrifying.
You know, yeah. Would you rather fight an NFL player or a UFC fighter? You know, you gotta pick one. Which one you? I'll take my chances with the football player. All right. You know, somebody in the chat says MMA. Yeah, exactly. That stuff's, you know, that's the holy shit. That's an impressive sport kind of stuff.
That's the closest thing we actually had to a gladiator fight.
Yeah, you want to talk about a gladiator fight? That's the closest thing we have to a Roman Coliseum, not football. Okay. And then he talks about, oh, they wouldn't dare line up in the trenches. I'm not keen on lining up in the trenches for a pointless war to make the banks rich. If that's what the fuck you're talking about, I don't know what you mean there.
Although, is he suggesting that people who line up to watch football are more likely to be in the trenches like him?
Yeah, I don't believe that for one but fucking second. All right. Football fans are some of the biggest fucking cucks in the universe. I was pleasantly surprised these last few years when a lot of them turned their back on the NFL because it got so ridiculously cucky. I didn't think they had that in them. But at the same time, the ones who didn't, like Vox, are fucking cucks. Okay? The ones who didn't at least cut back on it or something. Like, look, I'm not going to tell you how to use your money. And look, definitely, you almost can't spend a dime without supporting some corporation that hates you. I get that, okay? But there does come a point where you got to have a little bit of self-respect about it. You know what I mean? There's got to be a line somewhere, right? So, yeah, look, Vox just doesn't want to admit that this is a dumb thing he likes, okay? Because he's big brain Teddy Spaghetti. He can't fucking admit that. I'm big brain Teddy Spaghetti, and if I like it, it's obviously because of deeply philosophical reasons. You don't.
This sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, no shit. You don't have to philosophize it. Look, Teddy, I get it. You love watching those big black men perform. All right, that's fine, buddy. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to judge you. All right.
Yeah, by default, my favorite pastime is animation, and even I'm going to admit, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't go for this sort of thing. I mean, I can go on and on about how it's so intrinsically beautiful and how it's a true expression of making objects move across the screen. But I'm not going to say, "Oh, well, if you disagree with me, you're a pleb."
You're a physical coward if you don't like watching those black men perform, Luke. I want you to know that.
Or worse, I'm not going to say you're a coward if you don't watch Steven Universe.
If you don't like watching a bunch of big black men physically perform, Luke, you are an ignorant fool and a physical coward. I want you to know that about yourself, all right? You need to... Teddy Spaghetti said so, okay? Don't you know he has an IQ of like 90 billion? All right, this is a big brain nibba over here, all right? And perhaps it is because he's a big brain nibba that he's into the thinking man's sport. No, seriously, he's been on this for a very long time because over the past few years, it's gotten worse and worse, and people have commented on his blog like, dude, because he is all about all the minutia of a fucking NFL season. His blog constantly updating with pre-season shit and every player that's been traded, the score to every fucking game, and people called him out on how fucking cucky it is. And he just flips out and calls them gamma trolls and all this other shit. I'm sorry. It's fucking sports ball, okay? It's just sports ball. It's a dumb distraction. That, look, it's fine to have, but it's just sports ball. And it is by no means the most physically impressive sports ball.
Yeah, people like Vox Day are the reason why people mock football for being sports ball.
Exactly. Vox Day is the kind of football fan... he's one of the two kinds of football fans. Number one, you get the completely brain dead idiot. Number two, you get the guy who's, Mr. Big Brain Nibba, who thinks that, you're an ignorant fool because you don't love watching those big black men perform. Yeah, Vox Day is exactly look, I've been on here recently in the last few months, and I've talked about how, I don't really want to be one of those guys who mocks the sports ball fans. I don't want to be someone who sneers at someone because they're having fun the wrong way. I just don't want to be that. I don't want to be somebody who mocks them because it makes me feel smarter. You know what I mean? And that's a trap it's easy to fall into. You know what I mean? And I don't want to do that. But guys like Vox Day are the exact reason I used to really relentlessly mock the fucking sports ball shit. Them combined with the boomers that are just so fucking obsessed with it. Holy shit. Yeah, I just, like I said, football's gay. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Football's fucking gay. All right, watch hockey. It's watch the white man sport, Vox, of hockey. All right, you want to watch the physically demanding shit? Go watch fucking MMA, UFC, boxing, whatever. You know, shit. I'd rather watch basketball. At least things fucking happen in basketball. God, football's so slow paced. You know, as someone who used to love a lot of shows that were on Sunday nights, like The Simpsons. Now, The Simpsons sucks balls now, but first, like, 7 or 8-ish seasons were brilliant. Somebody who still likes Family Guy. Somebody who used to watch Futurama, shit like that. Trust me, I had to deal with my shows getting preempted because of fucking football games all the time. And it'd be like, oh, there's 2 minutes left in the game. Well, I guess my show should be on soon. Well, no, there's 2 minutes somehow take 25 goddamn minutes to play. And then we got to have a post-game show where a bunch of brain-dead, concussed fucking former football players got to be like, did you see that thing that just happened? Remember the thing that happened 10 minutes ago? That was cool. Which, by the way, side note, I used to relentlessly mock the sports ball fans for the post-game show and how fucking retarded that is. Like, do you really need a bunch of people to talk to you about the thing you just watched? But you know what, my fellow nerds, my fellow geek culture guys, whatever you want to call us, we don't get to mock them that much on that shit anymore. Because there was a show on after The Walking Dead called The Talking Dead, in which a bunch of fucking soy boys talked about the show they just watched. All right? So we're guilty of it too. Just side note there. All right? And I'll call it out on us too. That's fucking retarded. Okay? If you need someone to sit around after the show you just watched, telling you about the show you just watched, stop it. Get some help. All right? All right. So, other things I want to talk about tonight. Let's see. We got the Jordan. Okay. So we got a bunch of these here. Let's go ahead.
They are. Every aspect of sports fandom has a mirror duplicate in nerd fandom. Dungeons & Dragons, fantasy football. Webcomics, sports radio. Shatner, Madden. Halo, also Madden. Watchmen, The Miracle on Ice. Superman, Babe Ruth. Spider-Man, the Chicago Cubs. Alan Moore, Bills Spaceman League. Browncoats, Raiders fans. Flyhards, Yankees fans. Sports fandom has its own guns, collectibles, cheesy merchandise, and yes, even its own furries. So what I want to know is, why can't these two cultures come together at long last when they have so much in common? Imagine a world where they did, a world where the old boundaries were broken down and both nerd and sports nerd could come together in a shared brotherhood, trivium and minutia. A world where the man with the hand-drawn schematic of the TARDIS and the man with the world's most meticulously researched fantasy baseball team can make peace, break bread, and trade swelling tales of all the sex they're not having.
That's when Movie Bob was somewhat endearing. He would never say that kind of shit now, the way he has a contempt for the working class and all this other bullshit. And look, I don't want to really be going hard on the sports ball fans, all right? You know, like, look, I like hockey a lot. I would probably follow it more if not for the fact that you actually have to go out of your way to follow hockey. You know, like football, I know what's going on in an NFL season against my will, okay? Every year, I know who played in and who won the Super Bowl, despite the fact that I vehemently do not wish to know that. But I will know it nonetheless, okay? Because it's just so fucking prevalent. Hockey, you got to go out of your way to fucking pay attention to. So, you know, a lot of times, like there'll be... I specifically remember a time I was out, like, with a Capitals jersey that I have with some buddies of mine. And my buddy was like, how do Caps do it? And I was kind of embarrassed. I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I haven't paid attention to it this year. Anyways, real quick. Let's go ahead and look at the sponsor here. Okay, so we got some ad copy here, and oh boy, this is actually some ad copy. Yeah, I may need to get a sip of my drink over here before I tear into this. So our sponsor tonight is the good folks over at Steve's Jerky. Again, I was going to do a ripping Jordan Peterson ad for this. It's a shame.
And it would have been so much. It would have been so much fun.
And, I was even going to be proper about it. I was going to do afterwards, the little disclaimer, like, this is not really Jordan Peterson. No one at the Bechtloff podcast or at Steve's Jerky is claiming it is. This is purely satirical, blah, 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 blah. But, no, okay, fine. Dr. Peterson just can't take a joke, so we all got to fucking stop hurting his feelings.
Welcome to NotJordanPeterson.com. This is not Jordan Peterson. In fact, I'm a neural network designed to sound like Dr. Peterson. Unfortunately, for the time being, the site will remain inoperable. But please sign up to the mailing list below if you would like to stay informed of future developments.
Oh.
All right, so somewhere deep in the heart of Cajun country lies a man with a dream of saving the West. He roams the green pastures of Gulf coastal plains, butchering cows with his broadsword while yelling Deus Vult and other hilariously pretentious and unintelligible Latin phrases. Upon returning to home with his cargo, he is greeted by his smoking hot red-headed wife, where he smacks her on the ass and sends her to fetch him his Captain Morgan. From there, he sets off to preparing his meat for both the jerky and the redhead, and marinating it in 3 days in the ultra-secret recipe of herbs and spices that only people bold enough to storm Area 51 would even know the secret of. He then cooks and packages his meat in the most cleanest and protective way, most likely to avoid the effects of the Shimi curse likely cast upon it by some bitter old trailer park trash that refer to themselves as the free folk. You too can do your part in helping save the West by purchasing some of the holy product known by the layfolk as Steve's Jerky. Get yours today by visiting facebook.com/Steve's Jerky before it's all gone. And make sure to rest easy in the fact that Davis O'Weenie has never in fact tasted this fine product due to Canada's homosexual food importation regulations. Thank you, and also please help support the show by sending them shekels. Never know when Steve is watching and just might decide to bless you with a free pack of jerky. Thanks and God bless. That was fantastic ad copy.
That has to be animated. We have to animate that.
Oh, wow. I did not read that before the show. This is my live reaction to that. That was impressive. Whew. All right, so on to the main topics. Now, this is going to be a bit meandering, but I want to talk a little bit about corporatization, in our culture and how everything's getting swallowed up by corporate. In the news, there's the Sony and Disney fighting over Spider-Man. Sony still has the movie rights and some other limited rights to Spider-Man, and Disney's bitching or whatever. But there's also the kind of consumer aspect, the consumerism aspect. Last weekend, we covered the guy who had $90,000 worth of Funko Pops in his fucking spare room. And one of the commenters was making fun of that, and he said something to the effect of, what happened to real hobbies like, fishing or hunting or building things or whatever. And he goes, collecting things is not a hobby, he said, which I think is partially true. Oh, by the way, folks, since we just did the ad, I know, very professional of me. Also, if you want to support the show, there's the PayPal, Patreon, and Amazon wishlist down below, as well as Streamlabs and Super Chats. So send them shekels. But anyways, he said collecting is not a hobby. And I sort of agree with that, but not entirely. I think to some, look, if you're collecting something like, I used to collect comics. I don't really collect them anymore. I read comics still, but when I fill a box up, I sell them to a buddy of mine who sells them at cons. Right now I kind of collect retro games. I know buddies that collect things like records. I think something like that, in particular, where it's sort of an aftermarket or older thing. I think there's that could qualify as a real hobby to me, because there's definitely something to the art of the hunt. Like if you're trying to find stuff, and especially if you want to get good deals, you got to know the stores to go to. Sometimes you got to go on little road trips. You got to go to cons. You got to network with people, what have you. You know, that's not what a Funko Pop collector generally is doing, in my opinion. They're going to the store, if they even go out, if they don't just do it on Amazon or some shit. They're buying a piece of plastic, they're taking it home, they're throwing it in a pile. All right? Like, this guy didn't even have them out of the box. It's not even like he's decorating a shelf with it. Like, look, I got a bunch of figurines and dumb shit, you know, decorating shelves, but I purchased them because I think, like, that would look cool on my bookshelf or my game shelf or whatever.
It's kind of like that joke about the people who buy comic books but don't read them.
Yes, and that's the other thing. If I buy some goofy, dumb merchandise, right? It's because I like the thing that merchandise is of. Okay? Right next to me, I have a wind-up metal bender. I got years and years ago for Christmas one year. You know, he's like one of those old 1950s wind-up toys, like his legs move forward and all. But I got it because, I mean, well, it was a gift, obviously, but I love it because I love Futurama. Futurama was a great show. I don't just merely have it to, you know, to have another piece, well, in this case, not plastic, metal. No, it's the thing that it represents, okay? That's the thing, when you collect comics or old games or records or whatever, it's something that can be enjoyed. It's a thing you enjoy that you're passionate about. You can play a game, you can read a comic, you can listen to a record. And when you buy merchandise based on these things you enjoy, it's because you enjoy them. But, you know, partially with the corporatization of everything, they want everything to just be the merchandise. They want to just, at the end of the day, they want to just sell you the merchandise, really. You know, that's the real shame in a lot of this corporatization. They want to just, you know, as the guy in Jurassic Park said, slap it on a lunchbox and sell it. You know, they want to skip the part of actually creating something of that actually touches people's imaginations. They want to just skip to slapping something on a lunchbox and selling it. And sadly, a lot of people that are just filling a void of consumerism, filling a void in themselves with consumerism, are going right to that stage, where they want something slapped on a lunchbox, you know, to buy. Somebody in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Open up the store. Come, walk this way. Take a look. We put the picture's name on everything. Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Somebody in the chat says, don't you collect amiibos? I really don't. I have a bunch, but I actually used to have a lot more, and I sort of thinned down the collection. There are some that I want to get. Like, I got the Pokemon trainer here recently. I have, like, a plastic holder for them, I guess, like display thing for them that looks like the Donkey Kong, you know, bent railings from the original Donkey Kong game. I got a buddy that does woodworking. I want to get him to make like a bigger one of those out of wood at some point. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is, like, you know, yeah, look, I'm not saying I don't buy some dumb shit once in a while, but it's dumb shit of things I love, you know? I feel like a lot of geeks have kind of skipped. Like, look, that guy that has $90,000 worth of Funko Pops, you're telling me he's just really, really passionate about those, what, 50,000 fucking franchises that are probably displayed, or probably represented in that pile? You know, did he buy his Golden Girls Funko Pop because he's a huge fan of that show? I'm just throwing that out there as a random one I've seen before. I doubt it. You know, people want to skip, I shouldn't say people, the corporations. And I hate saying that fucking phrase because I sound like some dumb hippie from years ago. The corporations, man. But let's be real, that's the world we live in. You know, they
There's a
want...
word for a game that is purchased but never enjoyed, and believe it or not, it's not Thief 4. It's waste.
Somebody says, I used to collect retro games before there was a market for them and you could find them in garage sales for cheap. Now they're prohibitively expensive. A lot of them are, yeah. It's hard to get into. I find Game Boy is still really cheap. Like if you get a Game Boy Advance SP, you know, you can play Game Boy Color and original Game Boy games on that. And Game Boy is still really cheap. And there's some gems in Game Boy. But that's neither here nor there.
Look at all this filth. It's not filth. It's a glorious monument to the achievements of the 20th century.
Yeah, collecting shit just to collect shit is a blight. And if you do that, you're wrong. You should collect things because you're passionate about them. You know, I used to collect comics, but that's because I read comics. That's the other thing with this thing as a hobby. Collecting should be a secondary or tertiary aspect of your overall hobby. Like, look, it is fun to collect things. That does scratch an itch, you know? But it should be because you fucking love it. Cynic in Chief sends $5. He says, do you want an autograph from Bob Layton, Peter David, or Jim Starlin? They're here at Bubba Fest. I can get it in your name and mail it to you. Well, that'd be cool. I love Jim Starlin and Peter David in particular. Peter David is a fantastic comic book writer, and Jim Starlin is amazing on cosmic stuff. He is the reason Thanos is a fleshed out character in the comics. Because Thanos originally, and it might even have been Jim Starlin who was writing when he first appeared, but he was basically just a Darkseid knockoff. But he's one of Marvel's most fleshed out characters in the comics because of Jim Starlin. But yeah, that's the thing. I loved comics, so I collected comics. But I collected comics because I read comics. You know, I loved reading them. I collect retro games because I love playing old games. Now, look, I haven't played through all the games I have. I played them all at least a little bit. But I haven't beaten them all. Like, yeah, you know, it does get to the point where sometimes you're collecting them faster than you can truly enjoy them. That happened. You know, there were times when I was working a job with a lot of overtime. And on my time off, I'd go to certain comic book stores and all that had great back issue bins. And I often bought comics faster than I could read them. They were just piling up. You know what I mean? It happens. But I didn't buy comics because I was like, oh, this is going to be worth something someday. Because that's stupid. And if you do that, you're a blight. You're killing that hobby for the people that truly enjoy it.
Fine, this stuff was garbage when it was new. Let's blow it up already.
Yeah, that consumerism in geek culture, you know, that meme of the guy where it's like, you know, don't ask questions, just consume product and be excited for next product. I mean, that's where they want us. And that's where too many people fall into.
Or in other words, the background image of every single nerdy YouTuber commentator.
Yeah. Which, I mean, but that's the point. There's nothing wrong with having a shelf full of all that goofy shit. It's just like, do you have that shelf because you love all that stuff? You know what I mean? Or do you have that shelf full of dumb plastic shit because you're trying to just, you know, you're trying to just fill a hole in your soul? And, you know, you get, like I say, you get the corporatization aspect of it, you know. Look at the way, you know, all this censorship online. I think we miss a bigger picture when we look at it from a political censorship kind of thing. And yeah, look, obviously there's a lot of political censorship, and obviously the non-establishment, shall we say, right, gets it far left than far worse than the non-establishment left. Sure, that's a fact. Not disputing that. But it's more than all the hate speech and stuff like that. They want to turn the internet into completely corporate. That They don't want, it's not just the hate speech stuff. They don't want there to ever be another AVGN or another Nostalgia Critic or anything like that where they're truly independent. Think of this. Imagine if you're starting a YouTube channel, right? And you're just really passionate about music. Maybe you're an aspiring musician yourself. You got a little shitty garage band or something. Maybe you play at bars and stuff, but you're very passionate about music and you have all these thoughts and ideas about music and you want to review music. In part because you want to get all these thoughts and ideas out there. You want to share them with the world. But also you think, man, if that picked up, that would be a good platform to then sell my music on. Okay, fine. You want to make it go out. The American dream. You want to be an entrepreneur about the thing you love, right? And let's say it's music in particular. I'm using that because it's the worst example right now of false copyright shit. You couldn't do it. Not on YouTube, or you'd have a hell of a time. Because the moment you have 3 fucking seconds of a professionally recorded song, you've got copyright strikes up the ass. And it doesn't matter if you were legitimately reviewing that song. It doesn't matter what genre or whatever. You want to review metal, rap, whatever, pop, anything. If you're not part of a multi-channel network that can protect you, or you don't have over 100,000 subscribers where you get a direct line in YouTube, you fucked. You're not going to have any real recourse other than disputing the claim and hoping that, nobody gets back to you and it just goes back up. You wouldn't be able to do it. When we had our Kang stream back in February for We Was Kang's Month, it got blocked for 30 days after it first aired because we were reading an article discussing the Brandy and Monica video, The Boy Is Mine. And Luke played not even parts of the song, but parts of the video in the background, as we were discussing an article that was discussing the cultural significance of that song and video. We were completely within fair use using some clips of that video. And we were immediately blocked by a fucking algorithm, by a fucking machine. So you couldn't start a music channel right now reviewing music. You couldn't do it. Because music's the worst one. Music's the one they really go after you for. Like algorithms detect even a split fucking second of a song in your video.
Your only option is to go for razor fist and basically describe in great minutia what you like about the song and never actually use it.
Yeah. And that's just one example. You'll have similar problems if you're reviewing movies. If you're reviewing comics, you'd have much less of a problem, but eventually you'd probably run afoul of shit. And the reason for that is they don't want the little guys out there. They don't want anybody criticizing the product. No. You just shut up and consume product and listen to our approved fucking critics. And that's definitely a corporate control kind of thing. Look at what YouTube's doing recently. I don't know if you paid attention to this. I first discovered this story from Revenge of the Sis. But there's some chick living in a van who has a YouTube channel. Now, she's living in this van that was very professionally retrofitted to be livable. It's got a shower in it and everything. And I can't remember her name for the life of me. She had, at least at the time that I heard this story, 3 videos on her channel. And she had well over 100,000 subscribers. I think she was close to 1 million subscribers or some dumb shit like that. And it was completely astroturfed. There were reports of people saying they didn't know who she was, but they were somehow subscribed to her. There was no evidence of any kind of organic discussion of her on other social media like Twitter or Facebook. She wasn't trending or anything like that. What it appears to be is YouTube created her. Because see, YouTube wants to be TV. They want to have things that they made and approve of on here. But they want to create the illusion that it's some organic grassroots thing. This woman was also interviewed on Philip DeFranco's show. Philip DeFranco, by the way, is complete and utter whore for YouTube as a corporation. 110 fucking percent. Okay, he is a whore with no limits. You can even kiss him on the mouth. All right, he is a complete and total whore for YouTube. They want to absolutely control it. They want to bring in Hollywood celebrities and pimp their channels. They want to have Will Smith as a YouTuber where he has videos where he pretends to get along with his creepy homosexual son. You know, they want to have videos of Jack Black's Jablinski Gaming where he doesn't actually play video games. He just goes to an arcade and makes obnoxious Jack Black sounds. Like, skitty rapidoo! And you're sitting there wondering, why did we find this man funny 15 years ago again? And that'll be a fucking channel that you sit down, shut up, and consume this. They don't want me on here. They don't want, and never mind me, they don't want Razor Fist on here. They don't want Movie Bob on here. They don't want that anymore. They want it to all be fake, plastic, mass-produced shit, but they want to trick you into thinking that it's organic and it's a rise up. Ultimately, what these corporations want is they want to kill entrepreneurship because they don't want you independent. See, if you go on YouTube and you start your music channel, you're really passionate about music. I don't know. Let's say you're just maybe you don't even have a specific genre. Maybe you're a jack of all trades musician. You're truly one of those guys who just loves everything, and maybe you thought to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? Because this would be an angle I haven't seen. I want to introduce older songs to these Zoomer kids. So I'm going to do a show where I spotlight shit from the 50s into the 90s. That's my show. Jumping around from decade to decade, spotlighting older shit for the young kids. The hidden gems, all that good stuff. You're really passionate about that, right? And that just takes off. And then your original music is selling. And your channel is just raking in the super chats and the ducats and whatever. Maybe you do streams where you perform live covers of songs. And yeah, you get copyright struck, but you can't keep the ad revenue, but you can still keep the super chats. Who knows? And you're independently wealthy now. You're not a billionaire, but you're independently wealthy. You're independent. You now manage to, and you are making a living on your own. You're not sitting in a cubicle. You're not working for the man anymore. They don't want that. They don't want that for anybody. They want you working in your cubicle, working for the man. They want you in debt all the time. You ever try to buy a car at a dealership with cash? I have in my lifetime. It confuses and frightens them. I wanted to get a nice car once. I was a young guy, early 20s. I got some inheritance from my grandfather. I wanted to get a nice car, not a used car. I wanted to get, used, but something that just got off of like a 1 or 2 year lease, something like that was babied. And I was going to get me a nice Contour. It was like 10 grand. 10 grand for this car. And I had 10 grand. It actually ended up coming out to a little bit more than 10 grand. I told him, no, you don't understand, dude. I have 10 grand to hand you. You're going to have to work these numbers around because I don't have 10 grand and 1 cent. I'm going to give you 10 grand and you give me a car. That's the deal. But when I first came up to him, he's like, well, how did you want to pay for this? I'm like, well, I guess with money. What are you taking raccoon pelts now? What are you? Well, I mean, aren't you financing? No, I'm not financing. I got money for you. And he was just confused and frightened. He tried to talk me out of it. He said, why don't you give me 5? And then you keep that other 5 and we'll finance that 5 and you can pay it off slowly. And I'm like, or I could just give you the 10 now. Like, why are you trying to pass up money for the promise of money? What the fuck's wrong with you? Well, that's because the bank gives them a big old kickback. If you ever have the money and you end up, you're buying a car new, it's an interesting experience. They don't like it. They're not fond of it.
Yeah, they don't want the lottery winner to just come up and buy a car. They want an average schmuck coming in and say, "Oh yeah, I'll take out a loan with interest."
Yeah. You know, because they want you forever in debt. They don't want you owning things. That's why we're moving towards this subscription-based economy now. You know, that's why everything is a subscription. Everything is a debt. You don't own anything. They don't want you owning anything.
Speaking of going back to a little bit of creativity in the music industry.
Remember the 60s, that era that a lot of people, have these glorious memories of, which they really weren't that great those years. But one thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys. Look at the product that came and said, I don't know. We know what it is. Record it, stick it out, and it's all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives, who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want creativity. They just want creativity that just happens to skew with their political alignments. It's not that they don't hate creativity per se.
Well, as I said, I think it goes deeper than the political thing. I think it truly is that, these corporations, they want us locked in. A guy like Aaron Clarey, the advice he gives out is way more of a threat to them than almost any other political kind of, podcast or show or whatever. Now, Aaron Clarey's probably never going to get significantly noticed by them because, he's not saying the spicy things that are going to get him, flagged. But his advice on, avoid debt when you can and, try to get yourself independent and try to get yourself to a position of fuck you money and all this other stuff. That's the last thing in the world that they want for everybody. They want you constantly dependent. They want you constantly in debt.
If there was one good thing that Michael Moore brought up, it was this interview with this British politician or British labor worker who said, if you can make money to kill people, you can make money to help people. And it's just so annoying that corporations don't have the creativity enough to say, oh yeah, we can make a situation where we can all be wealthy.
Well, as we see with the Epstein thing, a great deal of our elites are fucking psychopaths.
Child raping psychopaths.
So yeah, you see a lot of irrational behavior. Jim Sterling once said, and he was, look, Jim Sterling's a piece of shit, by the way. I'm not defending Jim Sterling. He is bad and should feel bad, and I would be very happy to see all the bad things in life happen to him. Fortunately, the kind of guy he is punishment enough. But, back when he was pretending to be pro-consumer, in the pre-Gamergate days, he talked about how some of the things some of these gaming companies were doing were so stupid, where if they would just act a little less shitty, they would be making money instead of losing money. But as he put it, they are so greedy, they would rather make all the money, and if they can't make all the money, they don't want anyone to make any money. And that's sort of where a lot of our leaders are.
Oddly enough, our leaders have the mindset of a communist who what's that old parable, a kill neighbor's goat, where your neighbor has a goat and it can benefit everyone? I don't want my own goat. I want you to kill the neighbor's goat.
And look, I'm not out here trying to black pill you or anything like that. I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm telling you to do. All right, but it just sucks that everything's getting corporatized, everything's getting sanitized. They don't want this show to exist, and it's not because I'm a danger to the system. It's just they don't want you consuming content that isn't their special corporate prepackaged plastic content, and they don't want to dare risk the chance that this show might take off and I wouldn't have to work at the box factory anymore. Those are two things that they just hate the idea of. And it doesn't even matter if it's directly a threat to their, to their happy little pile. It doesn't matter. It's not even that it threatens their lock on stuff. It's they just don't want you to have it. Spice Weasel sends $2 and says, be on the lookout for an Amazon package next week. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I got something here recently. I think I talked about it. I might not have talked about it last Saturday, but I got a, like how Hayes has those car workshop manuals. Well, they put out like fake ones for like spaceships or stuff like that for, different sci-fi properties. Well, they put out one for the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. Somebody got me that. And there's also like schematics of some of the tech gadgets. It's a fun read. Sadly, it's got a section in the back where it like goes into stuff from the shitty reboot Ghostbusters, but I just skipped that section. Other than that, it's a fun read. And somebody got me Animaniacs on the Game Boy, which surprisingly enough came with the box and manual. The box was a little smashed, but I was able to fold it back up into proper shape. And yeah, the manual was cool with it too. Somebody in the chat says, do you have one for the Back to the Future DeLorean? I do not. I'm not a huge Back to the Future guy. I really, really like it, but it's not like Ghostbusters is to me, where it's just, an absolute cherished part of, one of the things that truly shaped my imagination, like Ghostbusters. But a buddy of mine's a big Back to the Future guy. I have one other one somewhere in this house that's actually for a Klingon bird of prey, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't have a DeLorean one, no. Let's see. The Animaniacs on the Game Boy, by the way, I guess I'll give a little review of it. It's basically a scaled down version of Animaniacs for the Genesis, which is weird. You might think it would be the Super Nintendo version, being the Nintendo Game Boy, but it's a scaled down version of the Genesis game with the graphics a bit scaled down. It's missing a level, that sort of thing. But the Genesis game is great. So the Game Boy game is decent. It's it's outclassed by its 16-bit cousin, but if you have a Game Boy and you have a fondness for the Animaniacs, it's definitely worth checking out. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? I thought I might talk a little bit about what's the name of the Muslim chick that's AOC's sidekick?
Ilham Omar?
Yeah, everybody's going after her hardcore because she was shitting on Israel. And I just find myself like rolling my eyes because it's like, this just shows you, you ever see that like picture of like, it shows the United States and it says, this is who the Republicans represent. And it shows Mexico, it says, this is who the Democrats represent. I saw somebody edit that where it was like, in the United States, it says no one represents this. Mexico was for the Democrats and Israel was the Republicans. I just, that chick has said so much obnoxious, hateful shit about white people, white men in particular, Christians, the very foundations of this nation, and just fucking crickets from the right. Oh, a few talk radio guys would be like, oh, this bitch, can you believe it? But, and maybe one guy on Fox News, but whatever. Nobody really cared. She goes after Israel. All of a sudden, oh my God, this fucking bitch, could you believe it?
What can I say? There's no money to be made in nationalism.
There's money to be made in nationalism for one nation, it seems.
Go. I mean, I know that's becoming that's a meme always used on our side, but it's getting a little obnoxious how often the echo comes up.
Shit. And it's like, this dumb 60 IQ fucking Somalian has said some of the most evil, heinous, stupid shit I've ever heard out of a congresswoman's mouth. And then, the one thing where she's kind of right, that's what she takes a bunch of shit for?
It's gotten to the point where even Jerry Nadler, the guy who's trying to push for the impeachment theories, he's actually saying, yeah, these women are anti-Semitic.
Jeez. Anti-Semitic guys. Which, by the way, given that liberal Jews have created the monster that is the fucking Squad as they like to be called. I find it's just that classic fucking case where the monster turns on Dr. Frankenstein. And I always love that part of a story. Cuz guess what, Israel? One day you're going to get your wish. You're going to destroy the West, and guess what? You're going to realize, holy shit, that was actually my bodyguard and piggy bank. Why did I kill it?
Isn't it always interesting how people like the ADL are so eager to talk about the evils and dangers of the anti-Semitism among white supremacists, despite the fact they're more than willing to defend a religion that is explicitly anti-Semitic?
Look. I don't know what to say on it. I mean, yeah, like I said, I don't know what to say on that kind of shit anymore. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I know there was some other stories.
Evangelical Christians at 34, the lowest of any religious group, even lower than Muslims. And again, perhaps it's because Jews are such deep thinkers. Deep thinkers.
Who was that guy Dashing Rogue had on his program where he's like, the reason Jews were kicked out of 109 countries is because everyone else is an asshole. But that number's not accurate anyways. Like,
yeah, well, he is doing a good job at undermining the whole notion that the Talmud is explicitly anti-Christian. But unfortunately, it's kind of you can't really take someone seriously when they say, "I have no patience for so and so."
I have no patience for people that mock the whatever. Get fucked. Oh, you know something else? A little side note here. Nintendo has dipped its toe into mobile games here recently. They had Mario Run a couple years ago. Obviously, Pokemon Go was big, and then they got Dr. Mario World. Dr. Mario World, they're going with the microtransactions thing where it's free, and it started off really, really fun when I was playing it, and then it got kind of obnoxiously difficult to where they want you to spend money to advance, and it's the typical mobile game formula. But you know what's funny? Dr. Mario World actually has better reviews than Mario Run, because Mario Run, it didn't really have the same kind of microtransactions. It was just $9.99 to buy the game. You know what I mean? And then you could just play the game. Well, everyone complained about how it was too expensive. See, that's just the nature of the mobile market, where they want everybody who plays mobile games doesn't want to pay up front. They just want to be nickeled and dimed forever.
Yeah, they don't mind the Pavlovian conditioning to spending money, but that first initial payment gets them.
Somebody says you can buy a DeLorean if you really want to. Yeah, that was a real car that they made. I mean, I'm sure it's probably expensive because of, the notoriety of the movie, I mean. Let's see. The mobile market is peak consumerism. You're absolutely right. And it's funny how Nintendo, when they first went into the mobile market, tried to not be shitty. And, everyone's like, it's too expensive to $9.99 to buy the game. And it's like, okay, fine, I guess we'll be shitty. And then they're like, yay, we love it. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Mario World's free to download on your phone, and it's fun at first. It's going to quickly grate on you.
Yeah, that's a real downside of downloading app games, because they can go on and on forever. Unfortunately, if you think to yourself, why am I still investing time into this when there's no progression to be made?
Well, it just got to a point where it got, obnoxiously difficult. A real sudden difficulty spike, too. And you're like, they just want a nickel and dime. It's like, you sure you don't want to buy more hearts and diamonds to help you beat this level? Like, no, I don't want to do that. I haven't paid anything on Dr. Mario World, and I'm not going to. I might just delete it off my phone now. It was fun for about a week until you wanted to, screw me.
And when they're not going to nickel and dime you, the game just always avert you to new advertisements for new games to waste your time on.
That's the mobile market for you, though. I mean, look, I'm glad Nintendo's making some money there, and it's what that market wants. I mean, you can't. I'm going to sit here and say this is a case where, and look, obviously I'm a Nintendo fanboy, but I'll call them out when they need it. I don't blame Nintendo for Dr. Mario World here. They are giving the people what they want. They tried it the other way. People didn't like it. No. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I don't know. That was about it for topics this week. I was planning on doing a gaming stream this week, but my schedule just got moved all around on me, and I just wasn't able to. But I think I might do one tomorrow night. I'm thinking of playing a little bit of Pac-Man 256, and then playing Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Because I'm not going to be able to play Pac-Man for a whole fucking stream. I'm not that good at it. Pac-Man's one of those games I think is fun. I like it, but I'm not that good at it. So I'm not going to be playing it for fucking hours. But Oddworld, I'm kind of looking forward to digging into Oddworld. I think I might grab it on Steam tonight because it's I had that game when it was new, and that was a great game. Let's see what else. So he said, I did see an episode of Jay Leno's show on Cars where he rode around in a DeLorean. It sounded pretty crappy. It's a cool looking vehicle, but it wasn't well built. Yeah, I mean, John DeLorean was, as I understand, he was somebody that was basically just fired from GMC and was rich enough to just start his own company. Which is kind of funny because if you look back at the history of Chevy, I mean, Louis Chevrolet was a mechanic that was fired by Henry Ford for being a drunken Frenchman. And he was like, fuck you, I start my own company. Like, literally, it wasn't even like anything professional. Henry Ford just didn't like the fact that he was a drunk. It wasn't even really affecting the work. He was just like, he didn't like him being a degenerate. He was like, fuck you, you filthy Frenchman. And all right. Well, that's about it for this week, folks. Yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about. I'm not going to drag the show on. We're at about an hour and a half anyways. So, if you enjoy the content I put out, do consider supporting the show. We got the PayPal, Patreon, and Amazon wishlist, which are all ways you can do just that. And, obviously, there's Streamlabs and Super Chats during the live shows. Tomorrow I'll probably be doing a arcade, Bechtloff's Arcade. And let's see. Also check out our sponsor, Steve's Jerky. That wonderful ad copy he came up with. That was fucking fantastic. But do check out Steve's Jerky. Steve's Jerky is delicious. But that's about it for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. That's all we got for this week. Bechtloff out.